So let me start with the definition of clinical research. And this is not a historical definition, but it sets a perspective for the course. This was produced at NIH in 1996 in a special panel that met here and divided clinical research into three broad categories: patient-oriented research, epidemiologic and behavioral studies, and outcomes research and health services research. So patient-oriented research, which is the one we most frequently think about if we're doing clinical research, is research conducted with human subjects or material of human origin, such as tissues, specimens, and cognitive phenomena, for which an investigator or colleague directly interacts with human subjects and includes the development of new technologies, mechanisms of human disease, therapeutic interventions, and clinical trials. So these three categories, patient-oriented research, epidemiologic and behavioral studies, and outcomes research and health services research, is what you're going to be thinking about. So I love this quote, which comes from Isaac Newton, who in 1676 wrote, "If I have seen a little further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." And that's applicable to anyone who's succeeded in doing clinical research over the many millennium. It's hard to know when clinical research started, but in 2850 BC, Imhotep, who was a known scribe, a chief lector, and a priest, an architect, astronomer, and a magician, and at those days medicine and magic were used together, he diagnosed and treated over 200 diseases, performed surgery, and practiced some dentistry. And he extracted medicine from plants and knew the position and function of the vital organs and circulation in the blood system. So this was 2850 BC. The Chinese, here we are 2737 BC, according to the source that I had, were also exploring medicine. Emperor Sheng Nung experimented with poisons and classified medical plants. He's reputed to have eaten 365 medicinal plants over the course of his life. Supposedly, he turned green and died. Now, I'm going to go through some examples as I go through this talk, and some of them I will go from the ancient to the present just to give you a perspective. And one of them is malaria, which is an ancient disease, first described in China in ancient medical writings. In 2700 BC, several characteristic symptoms of malaria were described in the Nixing, and a plant called Qing Hao or Artemisia annua was described in some medical treatises, and 52 remedies were advocated as found in the Mawangdu tomb. In 340 AD, the anti-fever properties of this plant, Qing Hao, was first described by Ji Hong in the Eastern dynasty. And the active ingredient known as artemisinin was recently isolated by a Chinese scientist, Professor Tu Youyou, in 1971. And I had a chance to meet Dr. Youyou because she received the Lasker Award in clinical research in New York the same year that the Clinical Center received the Lasker Award in public service. And she said that what she did was, she was asked, apparently by Mao earlier, to find some medicines for malaria because the Chinese army needed these in where they were going. And she went to this old literature and found that this Artemisia plant was reported to be helpful. And she went back to the original readings, and with her colleagues, the biochemical structure, which is shown here, was identified, and she developed this new drug, which has literally saved millions of lives throughout the world. And just this month, she received the Nobel Prize for this work, the first Chinese investigator to ever receive a Nobel Prize.